Hi children, today we have taken up a lesson on microorganisms. All around us we see lots of plants and animals. They are all visible to the naked eye. We keep wondering at the beauty of nature. Let's also know that there are lots of organisms which we cannot see by naked eye. You need microscope to see them. You may need even the electron microscope to know about those microbes. Microbes is another term for microorganisms. So there is a visible world and there is also an invisible world as far as our eyes are concerned. We can see the visible world, but we cannot see the invisible world without some aid like microscope. So unaided eyes cannot see the invisible world. Let's see here. Microorganisms, they may turn to be our friends or foe. So don't come to a sudden decision, oh, all microorganisms have to be destroyed. No, there are lots of them. They have become our friends. They have become a part and parcel of our life. Without those microbes, we cannot live. On the other side, you have foes too. Foe, enemy. There are microorganisms that bring us diseases. They spoil food. They make our life miserable. So microorganisms, what is the caption you have? Friend or foe, or friend and foe. Part 1, first part we have two parts. Microorganisms or microbes. They are living organisms which we cannot see with the unaided eye. Without the help of a microscope we cannot see. They belong to 4 major groups. Bacteria, fungi, protozoans, protozoa, that's a phylum in the animal kingdom, protozoa, algae. Other than these, you have another master group, that of viruses. Viruses. We don't include it here. For the reason, all these are cellular. They have cells. Maybe single-celled organisms they are, or they are multi-celled organisms. But viruses do not have cell. They are non-cellular. They are living beings without any cell wall around them. They are just strains of DNA or RNA. You know, all our cells or cells of any organism has a nucleus inside. In the nucleus you have the genetic material. You call it as chromosomes. And within these chromosomes, strains of DNA and RNA are there. Now these viruses don't have these strains. Instead of that, they have just the thin filament, thin strain of a part of the RNA material or DNA material. Okay, we move to the next now. See, we have all the 4 main items here. Bacteria. These are bacteria as you see them under the microscope. See, each one is a bacterium cell. Each one of these is an organism. Here they are single-celled organisms. Here they are multi-celled, see. 2, they are connected. They may even get into strains and then break off. So these are bacteria. We get tuberculosis disease because of the bacteria. The bacteria enter in through the nose, go to the gullet, then enter the lungs. if there is no immunity in the body to fight those bacteria, we start suffering from a disease called as tuberculosis. In short, we say TB. Then protozoa. We have two examples here. Amoeba. It doesn't have a proper shape at all. Whatever you draw, the pseudopodia you mark, that will make you get the drawing of an amoeba. These are all pseudopodia. Even as it has to move, it has to push its cell wall outside, protoplasm has to go and fill in, and the body moves further. No fixed shape. This is amoeba. Here you have paramecium. Paramecium you find in freshwater ponds. They are small animalcules they are. If you take out a drop of water and observe it, pond water, observe it under microscope, you will be able to see slipper shaped animalcules. It looks like a slipper, see? Slippers you wear, what is the shape? It looks like that. It is the heel part, it's the front part. So we call them as slipper animalcules, paramecium. They are single cell structures. So now paramecium in no way it brings any disease to you. They are found in fresh water, they live for themselves. Amoeba. Normally they don't cause any problem. But entamoeba as such, which we find in the intestines, they bring dysentery. You start suffering from amoebic dysentery. You might have heard doctors saying, so these are days of amoebic dysentery. Most probably you have got infected by the entamoeba histolytica. That is the organism. Once it goes into the intestine through your food, you don't wash your hands and you start gulping. In unclean hands, you stand by the roadside in a jatra and you start eating. You might have shook hands with so many people. Entamoeba enter in, go to the system, intestine, and there they settle down. They multiply. And a stage comes when proper digestion won't take place. You will have to visit the toilet again and again. Then you go to the doctor. You will have to suffer for days. Unless these entamoeba are killed, you will not have relief. Come to Spirogyra and Chlamydomonas. See, algae. Algae is a group that almost resemble plants for the reason they have chlorophyll in them. See, they are green. There is chlorophyll here, there is chlorophyll here. It is a multi-celled strain. Fresh water, if you collect from ponds, you may be lucky to see Spirogyra there. They are thin, strain-like structures, green ones, and you can see in the microscope. They prepare their own food in sunlight. Chlamydomonas too, it is absolutely free, it has flagella. With the help of the flagella, it swims in water. It moves towards light because it has cup-shaped chlorophyll here, cup-shaped. Nucleus is here. It prepares food on its own. It won't bring any disease. So, algae, they are green because of the chlorophyll present in them. Then you have fungi. Fungi, they cannot prepare their own food. They depend on other organisms. Just the opposite of algae. They depend on other organisms. Say, bread, a piece of bread, just sprinkle a few drops of water on that. All these experiments you should do at home. Take a slice of bread, sprinkle a few drops of water and keep it in a corner. Let no one take and eat it. Keep it in a corner. The bacteria that get deposited on the bread will spoil it. After 1 or 2 days, if you see, you will be able to see some bluish green structures, black structures, black dots here. They are molds. They are not bacteria, these are fungi. Even the bacteria from the atmosphere, they may fall. That's why we say always keep the food covered. The air that surrounds us has lots of pathogenic unicellular organisms. What are pathogens? Those which bring disease. Unicellular organisms that bring disease, you call them as pathogens. So pathogens, these are pathogens. These are molds. They are fungi. The spores come and fall. The spores develop into mold. They multiply very fast, and next day if you see these bluish black molds growing on the bread. It's useless now. You can't use it at all. If you eat, you get disease. They are called as molds. If you have leather chappals, go in the rain, come back and leave it in the side. Don't use it for 3-4 days. Afterwards, if you see on that leather chappal or leather boots, you will have molds growing. Molds growing. A dead rat in your garden, you have not cleared it. After 2 or 3 days, if no animal has eaten it, you find mold growing on the entire body of the mouse. Entire body of the mouse. Mold. From where did it come? It came from the atmosphere, started multiplying because there is lot of food there. Food availability, as it goes up, multiplication rate becomes faster. So one fungus spore will result in a billion spores. Billions of them. They multiply and there will be fungus growth. This is penicillium. Penicillium. I will tell about its story later when we come across. There is a story behind that. Okay, we move next. Now, I told you viruses are kept outside, so we have to refer to them too, because most of the viruses are all pathogenic there. Pathogenic, they bring disease. They are microbes, they are also microorganisms. Okay, but they are different. They are different from all the 4 classes about which we learned so far. They reproduce only inside the cells of the host organism. See, the virus cannot live in isolation. What's isolation? Separately. They can't live alone. They need a host cell. So all the time they will be looking for living host cells, not non-living. If the host dies, the virus in the body too will die. They die. These virus cells always will be in search for new host cells. Now everyone speaks of the coronavirus and we say, always stay away from others. If you are sneezing, don't sneeze on somebody's face. Immediately you turn your face aside and sneeze on your sleeves. Sleeves of your shirt. If you have a hanky in the hand, all right, place the hanky and sneeze into that. Why? The virus, in case they are there in your body, coronavirus, they come out. Because of the force behind the spit, you blow out, no? They go and attack the other host now. So you have to be away, at least by half a meter. Beyond half a meter they don't exist because they are outside the body of a host cell. They die. So be away, keep distance, keep social distance, we say. See, here you connect. About the viruses, whatever characteristics you are learning, it has direct understanding with what people speak around today. Channels speak of it, Leaders speak of it, doctors tell about it, and almost everyone knows something about this virus. Reproduce only inside the cells of the host organism. You may be asked write a small para on viruses. Now these are the characteristics what you have to write. Inside the cells of the host organism. Host. These cells live in somebody. Now that animal becomes the host, which may be a bacterium, a plant, or an animal. Anything will do, it should be living. Any living cell will do. The virus will get in, make that its host and start reproducing. Sometimes they may even stay inactive for a long time. These viruses can remain inactive for a long time. Only under favorable circumstances they start multiplying. They cause common ailments, common diseases. Corona is a disease everyone is dreaded of. But we have common cold. You get cold. You don't even apply for leave. You go to the school, you go to your office. So common ailments like cold, flu, eyes turn red and your mouth starts inflammatory, that inflammatory characteristic. This nose will start burning, the gullet part starts burning, you do not know what to do, you can't concentrate on studies. And do you have medicines? There are no medicines. No medicine for viral complaints. But the symptoms you get, you can have a hold on them. See, if eyes are burning, mouth is burning, gullet is burning, to see that burning sensation cools down a bit, you can take medicines. But you can't kill viruses. They are obnoxious creatures which you cannot kill. See how difficult it is. Bacteria can be killed. Fungus can be destroyed. But virus cannot be destroyed. They have to die on their own. When they don't get a host cell, they die. That's why we say social distance, have mask, keep away from crowded areas, don't go to malls. All these we keep on pronouncing for the reason we know what they are. They need host cells. If you don't allow them to spread, you are safe. They may cause even cold and flu, we are not worried much. We suffer a bit, but serious diseases are there. Polio. If a person, especially children, start suffering from polio, the viruses attack the system and he loses one leg or both the legs. He may lose his hands or he may lose his eyesight. Anything can happen. Polio is a dreaded disease. Today we have polio vaccines. In what form? They are drops. Orally they are sent in. So we ask small kids to open their mouth and put 2 drops. They are called as polio drops. Those 2 drops, in intervals we give them over a year or 2, and that will see that these viruses won't affect the child in any way. We will come to that later, that part. So polio. Chickenpox. Chickenpox is a common ailment today. Earlier we had smallpox. In smallpox, you will have ulcers on your body, ulcers. And from those sores or ulcers, you will have pus coming out. That pus is nothing but viruses galore. Millions of viruses. They spread and they go and attack other organisms. That was smallpox. But in chickenpox, the sores will be filled with watery content, a kind of watery content. And chickenpox is quite common. Then you have measles. Measles is also like that. You will have red sores all over your body and you get bedridden for a few days. In smallpox, lakhs of people used to die. When smallpox attacked Europe, it took away half the population. Half the population was no more. It used to attack India again and again. That's why in villages we have this Amma or Durgamma being worshipped. In certain villages they call them as Pox Amma, Sidubu Amma. So people thought we get attacked by these from some unknown sources. They started worshipping. See here, protozoans cause dysentery and malaria. Bacteria cause typhoid and TB. Two examples have been given. You have lots of things to be learnt in this area. When it comes to pathogens, see MD in only pathogens, pathogenic bacteria, on that you have MD course, 2 years or 3 year course. You just make out. There too they will learn any one pathogenous bacteria, any one or one virus. They specialize. So much is there to be learnt. See here, smallpox virus, look at them. Today we don't have this virus. They are there only in labs under strict regimen. In sealed bottles they have been kept. They should not escape, no? Because we may need the RNA they have in their cells at some date for finding an answer for some other ailment. So we have kept them. We can't destroy them totally. We may need them at some point. Then you have polio virus. We spoke of it now. Here you have the coronavirus. That you have seen the pictures in all magazines and newspapers. Then common cold virus. Common cold. Common we say. We don't bother much. Even corona, someday it may become common corona. No one is worried. It comes and goes. Very strange to explain the behavior of all these. We move to the next now. There are friendly microbes too. When I say all these, don't start hating all microbes. Don't start hating them. There are friendly microbes too. Very useful microbes. Look here. Lactobacillus. A very friendly one. When you drink buttermilk, you say, stomach is upset a little bit. Let me have a glass of good buttermilk. What do you mean by that? You want to send in lactobacilli in millions, not in millions, in billions into your system. They are good bacteria. They go and kill the bad bacteria. The pathogens are killed. So in villages especially people say, oh, I have a bad stomach, let me have a glass of good buttermilk. Why do they drink? It's not blind faith. The lactobacilli that go into the system, they kill the pathogens. So milk, when it becomes buttermilk or curd, milk is made to turn into curd. What do? Your mother will take a spoonful of buttermilk and put it to boiled and cooled milk. You boil milk, you pasteurize, you kill all bacteria, then you cool it down. Once it has cooled down, your mother will verify whether it has cooled down or not, and 1 spoon or half a spoon depending on the season. If it is a cold season, you may have to put 1 spoon. If it is summer, then half a spoon is enough. Otherwise it will turn sour, because multiplication is fast in summer. So you add, keep it closed. Next morning you have the curd ready. The lactobacilli would have eaten the lactic sugar there, acted on them, converted it into buttermilk. In the meanwhile, they flourish. 1 spoon of buttermilk we have added would have given rise to billions of lactobacilli now. So you can get curd, You can get buttermilk. See, lactobacillus is a bacteria which is very, very useful. It will set your system right. So, buttermilk is a very good item to be consumed, or curd, even curd. At the end of your food, you will have some rice mixed with curd and eaten. That will see that your system is perfectly alright. Pathogens are kept away. Second, they are used in the making of cheese. Cheese is a big industry in the world. If you go to West, people thrive on cheese. If they can't have a normal food, they go for a piece of cheese and eat it. That is as much as a plate full of meal. Bacteria break down organic waste. See, dead bodies of animals. If you throw them, they won't be there after a few days. The body would undergo decay, decomposition, and everything will disappear. In case this process was not there, what would have happened? The earth would have been full of dead bodies. No body will decay. Even if you bury it, remains there. What will happen after years? The world will be full of dead bodies. So these bacteria, you have specific varieties of bacteria that make organisms undergo decay and decomposition. That is very much required to keep the health of the earth, our planet, the green planet, the earth. If you bury a dead body, after 1 year, if you open it out and see that pit, you will have some bones there, that's all. The body would have been eaten away by the bacteria. They are useful bacteria. They are helpful in the preparation of medicines. Lots of medicines with the biological source, they come to the market. So to make these medicines, you have to ferment them. Especially in Ayurveda, almost all the medicines are prepared by fermentation. They make concoctions of different juices and they put them in sealed bottles and keep them buried for years together. 2 years, 3 years. Then they get that kashaya, asava, and that will get marketed. Now all these are cases of fermentation. If you take some fruit juice, you drink most of it, have some half a glass kept aside, just keep it for some time. If you want, you can add a little more sugar, take some yeast cells if you have, put some yeast cells. You need not do anything, just keep it in one corner, that is also alright. If you add some yeast cells, add a little more sugar because it will hasten reaction. Sugar is a food now for them. Go and try it after 4 or 5 hours. It would have become alcohol now. Don't get habituated it, smell it. Smell the juice which you enjoyed a few hours ago. This is the experiment you have done. Just take it in your nose. You will get the smell of alcohol. You reject it. You don't want to drink because it may not be good alcohol. If it is good alcohol, nothing may happen. You can taste. It may have pathogens in it too. Making alcohol is also not an easy joke. You must have hygienic conditions. You should have experts who know what should be added at what quantum. Then only you can have the right alcohol made. It is fermentation under control. Under control. We come to the next. Bacteria are used to increase soil fertility by fixing nitrogen. You add nitrogenous food. You call manure. You add manure, no? Or this NPK, fertilizer you add. When you add fertilizer, you are adding nitrogen. Now this is what we do. But nitrogen gets fixed automatically by legume plants. All your pulse plants, pulses, cereals and pulses, all pulses, if you take them out, uproot them, wash and see, the root system will have thickenings here and there. They are root nodules. They are root nodules. These root nodules have millions of bacteria. These bacteria are experts in utilizing the nitrogen of the atmosphere and getting them fixed. They collect nitrogen, they fix it and keep it collected in the root nodules, and after the harvest is over, the roots become one with the soil, nitrogen becomes plenty in the soil, you call it as nitrogen fixing. Bacteria do the job. Rhizobium bacteria, those bacteria that fix in these root nodules, they fix nitrogen, no? They are bacteria again. They are called as rhizobium bacteria. Now you say, are these bacteria not your friends? Yes, they are friends. They are helpful in the fermentation of rice idlis and dosa batter. You know, you can't have the batter made and immediately prepare dosa. It won't have that sour taste at all. So what do? You do it on the previous day, you make the dough, then you add some yeast to that and keep it overnight. By morning it would have turned sour and you have the right dough or batter for making dosa. Idlis too the same thing. You cannot prepare them immediately. It has to undergo fermentation. Batura if you want to make, it has to, the dough or the batter, it's not dough, it's batter. It's thick batter. The batter has to undergo fermentation. Chapatis, you don't make the batter and immediately make chapatis. Ask your mother. If chapatis have to be ready by 5 o'clock, by 2:30 she will prepare the batter ready and make it into one huge ball and keep it aside. 2 hours are enough. The batter will turn a little sour and it gets filled up with carbon dioxide to some extent, and batter is ready to roll it into chapatis. See, I have given you some information. I have not told you everything. You have to collect. On each of these counts, discuss with your doctor. Ask your mother, why do you keep? What would happen if you prepare the batter in the night and do chapatis in the morning? Or a small quantum you take away and prepare and try out that too. What will happen? See, practically you should try and learn, and you have to discuss with your elders who do all this in a practical way. Microorganisms are used in the large scale production of alcohol. Alcohol, it's a big market in the world. Wine market. Vinegar you bring home. Vinegar you use for fermentation activity too. Now in the preparation of all these, the yeast cells, the bacteria, they play a very big role. So these microorganisms, microbes, they play a vital role in aiding the life of the human society. They help us, they enable us to run the life well. And here you have hepatitis B. Hepatitis B, the liver will get into problem in hepatitis. Lots of people lose their lives even. Especially when you have your food outside in unhygienic conditions, you get hepatitis, mostly. You have to keep away from food that is served outside. There is no hygiene. Take it for granted. Because they sell it. They don't use it for themselves. And most of them who do, they are illiterate. They don't know. They don't know about germs at all. Okay, here TB bacteria, see, bacteria, they are long cells. Lactobacillus, they too look like this almost. Lactobacillus, these are pathogens, these are useful bacteria. Then you have bacteria in dosa batter. Dosa batter. They are small, round, cocci. These are bacillus. These are bacillus. These are bacillus. Bacillus means rod-like. These are round, cocci, round. And you have spirali. Some bacteria are spiral. They are called as spirali. Depending on their shape, we explain. Friends, we have an activity here. Add 2-3 spoons of sugar into half a liter of water. 500 ml is half a liter of water. Now add half a spoon of yeast. Yeast is available in the market. Ask in the bakeries, they sell yeast. In the grocery shops too you may get. Cover it and keep it aside for 4 to 5 hours. You do it. What your mother does, the same experiment you do in the lab conditions now. The solution will emit smell of alcohol. I told you, no? Conversion of sugar solution to alcohol. This is called as fermentation. This is called as fermentation. If you prepare juice and keep it for your brother, he comes very late in the evening. Can you give the same juice to him? You can't. It would have got fermented. He will ask you, when did you prepare? Did you prepare it in the morning? It has got fermented. It has turned to be alcohol now. So, this was an experiment conducted by Louis Pasteur. You are repeating the same experiment. He said, if you boil milk to a temperature of 65 to 70 degrees centigrade, leave it to be at that level, not actually boiling, you raise the temperature of milk to 65 to 70 degrees Celsius, keep it at that temperature for that time, you say, keeping it in simmering condition, sim. Stove, you turn it to sim. You say no? Sim. Leave it at that level, then you lower it. Cool it down fast. Cool it down fast. Don't keep it closed. You have to keep it near the window or some place, or if fan is there, you can keep under that. This is the way how you pasteurize milk. You can see all the bacteria in milk that would have spoiled it. Spoiled it. They are dead. You kill them. Now you have cooled down. After it cools down, you add buttermilk and you get very good curd. Very good curd. If you add more buttermilk, the job gets fastened. Your mom will know every bit of it. So those were the experiments conducted by Louis Pasteur. Louis Pasteur was the scientist who threw a lot of light on germ warfare. Germ warfare. Okay. Medicines that germ warfare now even militaries use. It's not that germ warfare. This is in the lab how we learn about pathogens and good bacteria. I am speaking of that. Germ warfare is different. What China tried to do against India and America this time with corona, or against the entire world, that is germ warfare. Using corona germs to devastate the entire population of the world and live all alone later. Medicines that kill or stop the growth disease causing microorganisms are termed antibiotics. Here you have to put off. Growth of disease causing microorganisms is termed as antibiotics. It's another field. How can you kill pathogens? Pathogens have entered the body. How to kill them? It was Alexander Fleming who found out the way. He found out the way. He said, the same germs that cause the disease in the body, you collect them, weaken them, and then inject into somebody's body such that he should not get the disease. But the body will be in a condition wherein the blood cells think, the brain thinks that pathogens have entered in, and it starts war preparation. It prepares special bodies called as antibodies. to kill the germs in large numbers. Those antibodies give the strength to the person to face in the event of actual pathogens entering in. How did he come to know all this? How did he find? He had number of petri dishes in his lab. Petri dishes are small flat dishes. He was growing bacteria in them. In each petri dish he had one kind of bacteria. He was growing them because he needed them for experimentation. One day he found in one of the petri dishes some bluish green mold was growing. Bluish green mold, a small globule. He saw it started just expanding, growing over 1, 2, 3 days. It started covering much of the petri dish. Now he tried the water which is there in the petri dish with the bacteria. He saw all the bacteria have died. They introduced that mold into another one. There too bacteria started dying. Oh, he said, now I have got an answer how to kill these bacteria. He called them as antibodies and they became the antibiotics. A separate field of science called as antibiotics today. See, penicillin, it's an antibiotic. Streptomycin, tetracycline, erythromycin, etc. Each one of these can kill one or more diseases, pathogenic diseases. Alexander Fleming, he is the scientist whom we all will have to salute for this. See, the antibiotics are manufactured by growing specific organisms and are used to cure a variety of diseases. You have to make them weak, either weak or dead. In that condition, you inject it into healthy people and healthy people will get the resolve in their blood to kill the pathogenic bacteria. Now, saying this, people should not take antibiotics without any control. Too much is too bad again. You have to be very careful. See, this penicillin, it was a wonder drug when it came to the market. In the Second World War, usually soldiers who were being hit by bullets, they used to die. Or with a sword or something, if a part of the body is cut and they have an ulcer, wound, then they used to die. But once penicillin came, they all started getting back into the old vigor, the wound getting cleared. And even when I was in the school studying like you, we were using penicillin for everything. You have a cut somewhere, apply penicillin. Overnight, the wound used to start healing. Wound used to start healing. Then the scientific world said, we will lose this wonder drug in case it is used everywhere like this. So they removed it. It should act against dangerous diseases, most pathogenic diseases. Don't let it not be used by everyone. Only when we require, let us take the help of penicillin. So people started not using, even in drug shops they did stop distributing penicillin. It's a wonder drug. All these medicines are like that. If you use them too much, then they lose their ability to bring in the immunity that we require. In case you have a common cold or flu, don't go for antibiotics. Don't go to the medical shop and purchase directly, give me these tablets, because you know they are antibiotics. No doubt you get cured, but ultimately the body will lose its resolve to face a particular pathogen. The antibiotics are manufactured by growing specific microorganisms and are used to cure a variety of diseases. Antibiotics are wonder drugs. See, take antibiotics only on the advice of a doctor. Ask the doctor. Doctors won't give you in the first round. Only when they feel that the situation is going out of control, they use antibiotics. Then they play a vital role. 2. Complete the prescribed course. Doctors will take this, you have to take for another 10 days. In 2 days you get healed and you don't take the rest of the medicine at all. Why should I unnecessarily consume? It should not be done. Once you take an antibiotic, you should complete the course as per the advice of the doctor. Doctor should tell you, now you stop it. Because if you take antibiotics just for 1 or 2 days, you may feel that you are alright. But the germs in your body may still be there. You may get another attack later. They may get rejuvenated over a period. They stay there in blood till the right situation comes back for them to multiply. So even if you get cured, you should go by the course that the doctors have prescribed. Don't take unnecessarily. For everything, headache, antibiotic, cold, antibiotic. Becoming our own doctor, that will harm your health. Lots of people have this habit of taking antibiotics for each and everything. As far as possible, keep the antibiotics away. You will have a great benefit from that. What is it? Once in a way, when you get some pathogenic bacteria entering in, doctor gives you the dose, antibiotics, within no time you get healed. Why? It's new to your body. It will be able to act very well. If you keep on taking the entire year, they lose their ability to kill the pathogens. Last one, not effective against cold and flu. You are told don't take them against cold and flu. And when you have cold, allow your body to face cold, to face flu. Let it come down, let it get cured on its own. I repeat again, when you get cold, when you get flu, let it get cured on its own as far as possible. Then your body would have developed the ability to face the disease, that's immunity, and you will be healthy throughout the year. So you should not get addicted to medicines. Okay. Vaccine. When the microbe enters our body, the body produces antibodies. I explained you. The body also remembers the cold when the microbes enter again. Next time when the germs enter in, the body will remember it. And it will take back the required knowledge, the required forces, what are required to fight the disease. Immediately it will start preparing the antibodies and the disease will be faced very well. If dead or weakened microbes are introduced into a healthy body, the body kills them by producing antibodies. These stay in the body for a long time. Antibodies, after you are cured of typhoid, the antibodies stay there for a very long time. If you take a vaccine against chickenpox, the antibodies remain for a long time. Chickenpox usually gets cured on its own. It has a set course. Better it gets cured on its own, because you will develop such an immunity in your body against chickenpox that you will remain healthy for over a very long time later. The body too should be given the needed tests. It has to be given the space. It has to be given the time to develop its own immunity. So don't go for medicines time and again that you lose your innate ability to fight against a particular disease. What injections did you get when you were a child? Always know it. Ask your mother, what did I get? What is it I have not got? What are the courses I had? How did you stop me from getting this pathogenic bacteria causing danger to my body? What injections? Okay, pulse polio program, did I have? Just ask. No. Because pulse program Pulse polio program is a very recent one. When I was going to school, in every class there used to be at least 2-3 students who neither they were lame nor some part of the body or the other was not functioning. It was all because of the pathogenic polio viruses. Today it is disappearing because government has taken in all measures the Pulse polio program in the entire country with the help of the World Health Organization. Today we can breathe well. Polio drops are given. They are put into the mouth of the child and it's a course again. You can't have it only once. Vaccine, worldwide campaign against smallpox. WHO has taken up this campaign in the entire world. These days vaccines are made on a large scale. For everything vaccines are there. Now they are trying to bring out vaccines for corona too. See, female Anopheles mosquito brings malaria. Male doesn't bite. Male lives on grass juices. It is a strict vegetarian, herbivore. Female Anopheles, if it bites you, it may pass on malaria bacteria into protozoa. Malaria protozoa into your blood. Remember, need not be always. All female Anopheles mosquitoes may not be carrying malaria protozoans. Some will be carrying, some may not be carrying. In a zone, slum area where lots of malaria cases are there, probability is more that a mosquito bite will make you too suffer from malaria. Here, female Aedes aegypti we call Aedes. It brings you dengue fever. So these are agents. These are agents that bring the protozoans into your body, the microbes into your body. Here you have Edward Jenner vaccinating a child. Those were troubled moments. In case the vaccine fails, the scientist will invite wrath of the entire society. They will come and hammer him to death. They had to take chance. It was a matter of chance. But they were sure, the scientists used to be sure, I am not wrong. My theory should work. Okay, we close it here.